Why did I do the stupid things that I did? Fear, self-preservation, stupidity? Your guess is as good as mine. Personal accountability was something that I've mentioned in my life before, and when I did my little daily affirmation posts on Facebook, but it was never something I properly internalized. It was one of those situations where I never practiced what I preached. And that's something that's very important. Because you have to be able to take responsibility for your actions. You have to be able to own up to the things that you've done. You'll never be able to fix them otherwise, and you'll never be able to properly grow. I spent so much of my life, of my adult life, victimizing myself. I believed that the world was out to get me. The universe was unfairly targeting me. That the circumstances of my life set me up for failure. That I had so much going against me it was impossible to succeed. I've gone through my share of struggles, sure. I've got my share of scars, abuse, neglect, rejection, abandonment. Living my life, thinking I don't know how to be a father because I never had a father myself. All these things, while they may be true, and they may have contributed to the way that I view the world, my cynical outlook, and just my constant melancholy attitude. At the end of it all, they're just excuses. I didn't do, not enough anyway, of what I needed to do to get better after I was officially diagnosed with depression and anxiety, and then later on PTSD. I looked for everything humanly possible to be some sort of a crutch. It was like putting all your weight on a broken leg. I go to therapy on a regular basis. For a while I was taking antidepressants. But I wasn't putting in the work. Not very much on my end. I mean, hell, it took a long time for me to even be half self-aware enough to realize the things that I was doing. I thought that I had reached the pinnacle of self-awareness because whenever I fought with my girlfriend, I could acknowledge where I went wrong. I could acknowledge that I was over the top. But there's more to it than that. That's just water. I thought that by being able to step back from a fight and say, "You're right, I should not have reacted this way." I thought that was the peak. I thought that was all that was needed. I didn't think about anything else. It took even longer for me to properly realize, or to even begin to understand more the extent of what I was doing. Well, my therapist would point certain things out. I know I wasn't getting 100% the advice that I needed because I wasn't telling the whole story. I told my therapist the I'm the victim version of things. I told my therapist what justified what I thought I needed at the time. I told my therapist the things that I needed to tell so that he would agree with me that I wasn't doing anything wrong. I ignored the rest of the truth, or I just didn't want to see it. I feel like it was probably a combination of both of those things. Because I wanted to keep feeding into this I'm the victim, this narrative that I had put in place for myself over the years. Because so much of my life relied on external validation, I needed other people to justify my existence. I needed other people, my friends, my relationships. I needed to know from these outside sources that I mattered, that what I thought and what I felt was valid. I couldn't do that for myself. I couldn't give that to myself. I couldn't validate my own existence. I couldn't convince myself that my life had value. I leaned so hard into my trauma, so much so to a point that I would talk about it every single chance I got with completely random strangers, just to try to get that pity. It effectively became a drug. I was addicted to that need for reassurance, to that need for the validation. And I ignored anyone and everyone who tried pointing it out to me. In my mind, I justified it as this is what I need to get better. I needed a push. I needed a quick fix, a band-aid, and then I could keep going from there. And maybe to a degree that was true. Maybe at first anyway. But after I got that quick fix, after I got that band-aid, I never let it heal. Instead, I would rip off that band-aid and pick at the scab over and over and over again. And I looked for someone else to give me that fix all over again. I put pressure on a lot of my friend relationships when I was younger. It took a long time for me to see that. One of my best friends in like the earlier 2000s, one of my best friends verbally slapped me in the face and pointed out these things to me, that I was just living in a state of pity, that I wasn't doing anything to get better. All I would do is bitch and moan to try to get somebody to care. For a while, it turned me around, and I was doing okay. This was back in 2012. But sometime after that, I don't know when, I fell back into those same old habits again. And that's all that I would do. Numerous relationships since then had pointed it out to me. And I brushed it off as like, no, That's not what I'm doing. They asked me. So I told them it's not my fault that I'm an open person and that I want to share the things that I went through. But that was just how I justified it to myself at the time. It's not the reality of the situation. I was just chasing that quick fix all over again. Fast forward to now, 2021. I'm 31. I have a daughter. I'm in a relationship that's rocky at best. Because of the way that I was, because of my inability to put in the effort to get better. I screwed things up. I made dumb decisions. And at the time, I justified all those dumb decisions as I wasn't getting what I wanted, what I needed from my relationship. So I would look for him somewhere else. I ran away in reality because I was too scared to put in the work necessary to fix things, to fix my relationship, to fix myself. Instead of fighting for what I wanted, I made myself believe that once again that I was the victim and that I needed to find somebody else who would genuinely understand me, who would genuinely care about me. But again, the reality is I was just looking for another emotional drug dealer. I didn't know how to accept it, or I just flat out refused to accept it. Because that reality goes against the narrative that I had in my head all these years. I didn't want to accept that reality because it meant taking a look in the mirror and seeing something that I didn't want to see. I didn't want to acknowledge just what I had become or how far down that fucking rabbit hole I fell. I didn't want to realize what I was doing because I'd built it up so much in my head that I was the victim. Even though I told myself time and time again that I didn't want to be this way anymore. That I had some level of self-awareness to see that I was codependent to a horribly unhealthy degree. And I didn't want to be that way anymore. But I didn't do anything to make it better. Whenever the world would throw me a curveball, whenever life would kind of shit on me or spit in my face, I just retreated back to old habits. Craving attention, but with the understanding that this is not what I wanted, which just perpetuated a cycle of self-loathing and a deep-seated desire to do anything to have a moment of peace from myself. I turned to alcohol. For a good couple of years, I drank heavily because it was the only thing that would numb the pain. I started when I was 21. It's dealing with the situation at home at the time. And that was when I had realized what it could do. And it had been a constant crutch ever since. I was a touring musician for 3 years. I was a singer. And the last tour that I went on with that band before I quit, I was perpetually drunk the whole time, spending money I shouldn't have spent, spending money I probably didn't even have, to just keep that perpetual buzz going. Because I didn't want to feel anything. I felt, when I wasn't drinking, I felt guilt because I was gone. I was out chasing my stupid, teenage rock star fantasy. Well, my girlfriend was at home with my daughter. But I kept telling myself how I'm chasing my dream. I didn't stop and think about how much she had sacrificed just so that I could do that. And I never properly thanked her for it. Instead, whenever we would fight about my band, about how she wanted me to cut back or quit because it was taking up too much time, I was spending too much time away from my family, and it was taking up money that she was putting into it. I got mad and I got defensive because it felt like she was attacking my dream, the dream that she had agreed to support, the dream that she told me it was okay if I chased. When you look in that mirror and you see yourself, what is it that you see? There's a line from the opening track to Welcome to the Black Parade by My Chemical Romance that says, if you look in the mirror and don't like what you see, then you'll find out firsthand what it's like to be me. And that is me. My head is filled with so much just self-loathing and hatred. I hate myself. I hate everything about myself. I was never happy when I looked in the mirror. I mean, I was once upon a time, but another issue that I had in my life kind of brought that to a halt, kind of made that whole, pillar of confidence kind of come crashing down. And I never fully recovered from it. Instead, it just became another reason, another thing for someone to feel sorry for me over. Hitting this point in my life where I'm actually forcing myself to take a look in the mirror and see just what I've been just what I've been doing, just what I have become, is easily one of the hardest things that I've ever had to do. I thought that I had done it before. I thought I got through it. But at that time, I was probably only just scratching the surface. But actually doing it now is horrible. It's fucking horrible. I hate it. You force yourself to come face to face with your mistakes. You force yourself to see just what it is you've done. To see the monster that you have become. Especially if you're someone like me and you villainize yourself, or you victimize yourself and you villainize the rest of the world. Everyone in it, your family, your friends, your relationships, everyone. You think that everybody is out to get you. Nobody understands you. So you look for somebody who doesn't know you, who doesn't know any better, and you feed off of their pity, off of their concern and their caring. And sure, it helps. It helps for a little while. But that high fades. Just like with any drug. And you keep moving on. Just constantly in a state of searching for where you're gonna get that next fix. I think that where I am right now, and what's ultimately prompting me to do this, would be the equivalent of withdrawal. Stopping myself, or trying as hard as I can anyway, to stop myself from seeking out that attention, from seeking out that affection that I know rationally I shouldn't need. It definitely feels like I don't know. If you've had drug problems, I guess you would know. There's a lot of panic. There's full-blown anxiety. There's intrusive, racing thoughts. It's horrible. But just like with anything, it's a part of recovery. I don't want to be the way that I have been anymore. I don't want to feed into that addiction anymore. I want to be better. I want to be stronger. I want to rebuild the bridges I have damaged or burned. And I want peace. More than anything else, I want peace. Peace within my mind. Peace within me. I think it's possible to obtain it. I just know that it's gonna be incredibly fucking difficult. All I can do is hope that some of the bridges I damaged or burned can be repaired. But I also have to learn to accept that if they can't be, that there's nothing I can do about it.